guys, this is your friend, and we are back with a new fanfic. And if you enjoy the fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now, let's start the fanfic.
What if Naruto was banished and became the Dragon of the West? Chapter 1. Konoha. Sitting behind the Hokage's desk, a distressed Namikaze Minato was thinking back about the past. 20 years ago, when the Kyuubi had attacked Konoha, he had used Shiki Fuin to separate the chakra of the Kyuubi into two parts and sealed them into his two elder daughters of his triplet, Akane and Akemi, while the soul was sealed into his youngest son, Naruto. For some unknown reasons, the Shinigami had decided to let him live. Flashback. Your soul, sneered the Shinigami at an exhausted Minato. If I really wanted, I could take your soul whenever I like. I will make this the only an exception. I will let you live. And no worries, there will be prices to pay. Flashback end. At that time, Konoha had been weak after the war, especially after the Kyuubi's attack, so Minato had made a dangerous decision. He had decided to bring Akane and Akemi along with his wife to the ruin of Uzushiogakure. His plan was to train Akane and Akemi in his taijutsu, the Rasengan and the Haraishin, while Kushina taught them Kenjutsu, fire-style jutsu and water-style jutsu, Uzumaki sealing and using Kyuubi's chakra, while Naruto had been left under the care of the Sandaime Hokage, Hiruzen, because Minato had thought Naruto would only get in the girls' training. When his family came back, they would introduce themselves and make up for him with the training in some parts of the clan, but make sure Akane and Akemi would be stronger since they were clan heiress after all. But Minato had forgotten one thing. Man proposes but Kami disposes. The day his family had come back, there had been no Naruto to make up for. Naruto had been banished, and it had been the day the legend of red-hot-blooded habanero come back to life. As if it hadn't been bad enough, many alliances and treaties with other countries and villages were cut off by enraged leaders after they had heard about the banishment of his son. Despite many try, with as many tracking team as Minato could afford, there had been no trace of Naruto, as if he had literally vanished. But finally, they had found his traces. Hokage-sama, said Minato's secretary, snapping him out of his thought, the team you requested have arrived. Call them in. Tuka village. A young blonde man could be seen lying on the grass of a huge garden. His head was on the laps of a very beautiful red-hair woman who had 2 fox ears on her head and 9 swaying fox tails behind her. The wind was breezing as the kitsune sang the same song she had sung in their wedding. Play Kagen no Tasuki _96 Nako. Sama Zamana Dekigoto ga, various events. Kakageta hoi to Yuku Tazunet, set sail to go forth and seek a destination. Na mo shiranu hitobi tono, in the hustle of people. Kensu no naka nimuri ni sukeba, whose names are unknown if you are put to sleep. Tagai no mi ni udorishi, our eyes lodge. Yumi o yuru akari, a light which gooms dreams. Kakege no nai kamochi o, a sphere-shaped mirror which reflect. Yutsusu tama kagami, irreplaceable feelings. Omoi daseba asana gokuro, if I reflect a child's mind. Kujuri ni nita gigan, no Tasuki, a waning moon that looked like a cloud. Oikake te wa shiro to kuro no, when you chase, one will only. Hazamani meu dake, be lost in the chasm between white and black. Itoshi sato wa nani kao, what it means to be dear. Watashi ga kiite, I asked. Anata ga kote, and you answer. Tomadoi wo kakusa zuni, without hiding your confuse. Shiguriko kochino, the reason of the sensations of. Kisatsu ga sugita, late autumn showers had passed. Tagai no te o tadorite, the light that follows our hands. Yumi o hakobu akari, and carries dreams. Nagarit yuku hoshi tachi o, the stars that flow along. Kokode might iru yo, I see them from here. Keizo daseba kiri ga naito, if you start to count, there is no end. Nani mo sharanai mamad e, it is better not knowing anything. Ori no higa kuro no naraba, if the end day is coming. Semet mo no tamuk o, at the very least, let me make a tribute. Kanashimi wa Sumori Itsushika, sadness will intend to, without warning. Kano Sora o wi Sukushite ku, devoutly conceal this sky. Kaga Yaku Subit no Koa wo, the voice of all that shines. Ikite ku imi se mo, even the meaning of living. Omoi daseba asana gokuro, if I reflect a child's mind. Kujuri ni nita gigan, no Tasuki, a waning moon that looked like a cloud. Oikake te wa moichido to hanatsu yo, to chase it is to let go again. Keizo daseba kiri ga naito, if you start to count, there is no end. Nani mo sharanai mamad it is better not knowing anything. Owari no higa kuro no naraba, if the end day is coming. Semet mo no tamuk o, at the very least, let me make a tribute. This is peaceful, was the thought of the blonde man. He was 20, almost 21 years old, he had spiky blonde hair which was toned down backward, deep blue eyes, and if anyone looked closely, there were 3 very, very faint whisker marks on each cheek. He was dressed in black formal suit with a gray shirt, a black tie and a black trench coat. Think about Emiya Kuritsugu's clothes if you have a hard time to imagine. Next to him was a black katana rested at his side. This man was none other than Tendo Naruto, formerly known as Uzumaki Naruto, former Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi the Nine-Tailed Fox, or now known as Tendo Yoko, and former shinobi of Konoha that was located to the east of the continent. If someone from his former home saw him now, they would have mistaken him for his former Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato. 8 years ago, Uchiha Sasuke, the last Uchiha, had left Konoha. A retrieval mission had been carried out by Naruto and some of his teammates. After a fierce battle in which he had defeated the last Uchiha and been able to drag the Tem back to the village, everything had started going downhill. Flashback. In the middle of council room, sat a healing Naruto in front of the Konoha's council. Uzumaki Naruto, due to inflicting a fatal injury to your teammate Uchiha Sasuke as well as showing signs of not controlling Kyuubi chakra, we have decided that you will be banished. Said a smug Shimura Danzo, you will have 3 days to leave. If you won't leave after 3 days, you will be executed on sight. Flashback end. The council made up of the civilians, clan heads, the elders and the Hokage had decided that he had been too dangerous to be in the village, so they had banished him. He had been banished for doing his job. Not only that, the council in its infinite wisdom had Jiraiya and the Toads remove him from the contract. Sakura, the girl he had a huge crush on, beat him to an inch of his life for hurting her precious Sasuke-kun, and Naruto, being too shocked, hadn't raised a finger to defend himself. But matters only got worse. After the ordeal with Sakura, everyone, beside the Ichirakus and especially Ayame who had suddenly confessed her love to the blonde much to his surprise, started turning their back on him. The Konoha 12, even the shy Hyuga Hinata, had seen him as a demon. Jiraiya and the Toads hadn't even thought twice when they had removed him from the contract, since in their eyes he had been responsible for Minato and Kushina's deaths. Then came Konohamaru and his friends wanting nothing to do with him, claiming he was responsible for the death of Konohamaru's grandmother, Bawako. Oni-chan, 2-san. Yoko Ka-san, spoke to, voice breaking Naruto out of his thoughts. He turned to see a small girl with short red hair and another little girl with violet hair tied into 2 small bunches. Rinrin-chan, Riri-chan, is something wrong? He said while smiling at the redhead he thought as a sister and the little Riri, his daughter in all but blood. Yes, we're late for lunch, again, and Shion-san is making Rinrin's favorite. Said the red-haired girl Rinrin as she flapped her arms up and down while jumping happily. Come on, 2-san, Yoko Ka-san. I also helped Ka-san preparing lunch, said an enthusiastic Riri as she hugged her beloved 2-san. Well then, we shouldn't keep them waiting, should we? Spoke Yoko as she ruffled Rinrin's hair while at the same time, Naruto picked up a giggling Riri and gave her a piggyback ride with his shoulders. Yeah, hurry, 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 yelled Rinrin while pushing her Oni-chan and Oni-chan to the inside of the small palace. As they made it into the kitchen, a lot of wonderful smells filled Naruto's, Yoko's and Rinrin's nose, and now Naruto and Rinrin could only thought about the delicious food they would soon get to eat. But before he could sit in the table, "Tug, it hurts." "What was that for, Shirayuki Hime?" groaned Naruto as he rubbed his sore cheek. His cheek was pinched hard by a beautiful girl with white skin, long flowing black hair that reached to a little bit past her waist and a light pink ribbon on her hair. "Where are you this morning?" demanded Shirayuki as she pointed her finger at Yoko accusingly. "Today it's my turn to spend a day with you, then why are you with her?" "IAR." Suddenly, Shirayuki yelped as Naruto held her waist with his strong hands, lifted her up and put a passionate kiss on her lips. "I'm sorry for being so thoughtless, Shirayuki Hime. But I will definitely make it up for you," purred Naruto to her ears as Shirayuki started blushing and quivering as some very naughty scenes were playing in her mind. Turning her head away shyly, Shirayuki mumbled, "Stupid husband. So you finally came. I was starting to think I was going to get your shares," spoke a voluptuous figure with silver blue hair and a blue dress. "Come on, Kikyo-chan, you should know that neither Rinrin-chan nor me misses our food servings," said Naruto with some sarcasm. "Well, you three are the ones that eat the most here. Heck, your rice servings are at least 5 times bigger than the rest of us," said a blue-haired girl that wore white clothes. "You are one to talk, Say. You are almost as bad as them," said another female of the group. "Shut up, Ania, no one asked you," returned Say. Say's outburst caused all of those present to laugh. "Well, if you think I'm bad, you should see Naruto Oni-chan when he eats ramen," said Rinrin. "It can't be helped since Naruto-kun practically would open another stomach when there are ramen in 100 meters around him," said a very young woman with brown hair and slender body as she was sitting on the wheelchair at the dining table. These two comments caused Naruto to turn red and put his head down, which caused another fit of laughter. "Stop making fun of Naru-kun, Rinrin, Ias. It's not his fault that he eats ramen like he drinks water," said a pink-haired girl. "That's correct. You shouldn't tease him because of his ramen addiction," this time a black-haired girl spoke. "Oh, I couldn't agree more. His ramen fetish is very well known after all," giggling Yoko as she sat down. "Tuka-chan, Aisha-chan, Yoko-chan, you are not helping," said Naruto in a hurt manner, while the rest of the girls laugh. "On the bright side, we won quite many bets on ramen eating competition thanks to Naruto-kun, didn't we?" said a beauty with black hair that bang covered her left eyes. "But honestly, it's embarrassing to have a no-manner on dining table husband eating in front of other people," said a beautiful girl with dark violet hair and pupils which were colored dark blue on the top half and a mix of pink and pale yellow on the bottom half. "Kurumi-chan, Toka Hime. Why don't you stand on my side?" mocked cried Naruto as he sat in the corner of the room with a large raining cloud on his head while mumbling something about meanie wives. "It's okay, Naruto," said another who had pinkish white hair that is tied into pigtails in the back layers of her hair and reddish eyes as she tried to cheer her husband up. "I still love you regardless of how you eat ramen." This quickly made the sulking blonde hopped up on his feet as he scooped the girl up with his arms and Naruto started spinning merrily while chanting happily, "Inori-chan is the best." "Well, anyhow, let's eat, Naruto-koi," said a purple-haired woman as Riri happily laced onto her. "Yeah, of course, Shion-chan," said Naruto as he sheepishly put Inori down and rubbing the back of his head and then lightly kissed Shion's lips, which quickly earned a glare from Shirayuki while Shion smirked at the black hair beauty smugly. "This is where I belong. This is my home and they are family," Naruto thought with a smile. A true happy smile adorned his lips, a smile that was not fake in order to hide his pain. The girls were talking and laughing among themselves. He could see Shion praising her daughter Riri for the good job she did in helping her to make the food. Sway and Tanpopo were arguing about who won in their sparring match that morning. Inori, Kikyo, Rinrin and Ania, Shuri and Hanari were enjoying their food. Yoko, Sei, Aisha and Tuka, along with Sway, Toka and Kurumi whenever they pulled away from their verbal fight, were eating as well, sending the occasional wink and kiss to him or lustful gaze in Kurumi's case, their shared husband, which made him blush. How did Naruto end up here with all these beautiful girls and wonderful friends? Well, after he was banished and thinking the council would pull a fast one on him and send Hunter Nin, he headed west of the continent far out the reach of the hidden villages. The first day of his banishment had been the same day he had met his first future wife. Flashback. The moment Naruto opened his eyes, he found himself standing in the familiar sewer of his mindscape in front of the large cage with a small paper hada, fuin word on the cage. Why am I here, Dadbao? Asked a confused Naruto. Oi, furball. Are you in there? A silence. Furball. Are you deaf? Another silence. Okay, now that's strange, said Naruto. Usually, he would. Would what, Ninjin? Said Kyuubi in a booming voice as its eye now visible behind the cage, which nearly made Naruto jump out of his skin. Gah, what the hell, furball? Yelled Naruto, are you trying to scare me to death? Another silence. You're okay there, furball? Asked Naruto cautiously, you are surprising quiet today. And another silence. Kit, I'm sorry. Come again. Was the intelligent reply from Naruto. I'm sorry, it's my fault, said Kyuubi in a surprising somber tone as Naruto was taken back by what the Kyuubi said. After all, to hear a prideful Biju apologize to a human was something impossible to happen. It's my fault that we're banished. If I only sent a small amount of chakra. Waving his hand dismissively, said Naruto in an uncaring manner as he turned away from the cage. Don't sweat it, furball. If you didn't do that, I would be dead, so compared to that, banishment is much better. You don't hold any grudges against me, Kit? Asked a surprised Kyuubi. To think this knucklehead idiot held nothing against the one holding the responsibility for his miserable life was too unbelievable. Then again, Naruto would always pull something unbelievable and unpredictable. What would I get if I held grudges against you? Ramen falling from the sky. Free Ichiraku's ramen for the rest of my life. A new super duper tasty ramen. Eating ramen freely without worrying about my stomach. Nothing. Even if happened exactly like you said, I doubt those council's Tem would let me off the hook. Not to me, Menshio. Naruto's rant was abruptly stopped at the moment he turned his face to the cage. Instead of a large blood-red eye behind the cage, now it was a stunning beautiful woman. She was about 5 feet tall and had an hourglass figure with large C-cup, fair skin, long dark red hair reached all the way to her rear end and blood-red eyes. And she was. Gah, who the hell are you? Panicked Naruto with a heavy blush on his face. And put some damn clothes on. Flashback end. And that was how he had met Yoko the Kyuubi no Kitsune, or Tendo Yoko as it was now. After that, Yoko had started training him in what she knew, ninjutsu, taijutsu, kenjutsu and especially fuinjutsu. After learning the truth about why Yoko had attacked Konoha in the past, Naruto had trained vigorously for 2 reasons, free Yoko from the seal and take down Uchiha Madara. 1 month after the banishment, Naruto had met an old lady with the name Tendo Hikari, the last member of Tendo clan, and he was adopted by her, changing his name into Tendo Naruto. Despite not having any Tendo clan blood in his vein, Naruto was taught about clock up, the trademark technique of Tendo clan, which helped people to travel at near light speed in a short amount of time depended on the user. And Naruto, being a knucklehead he was, had tried to use the technique without caring about Hikari's warning and had ended up injuring his body badly since his body couldn't handle the strain of the technique. But then once again, Naruto had pulled something unpredictable. 2 months after that incident, he had created a new technique, innate time control or time alter for short, an inferior version of clock up. The technique sped up his blood flow, hemoglobin metabolism, and muscle movement all at the same time. Using this brief burst of speed, he could use his own physical skills and reaction speed at a level far above human limitations, or in short, he could even rival with the Raikage and the Yondaime Hokage in terms of speed if he used it with a good timing. But then, 1 year after his creation, Tendo Hikari, Naruto's new beloved, Obaa-chan, had passed on because of her old age. Even until now, his Obaa-chan's words were and would always be in his heart. Flashback. Naruto-kun, I once told you that the name, Tendo, Tien Dao, literally means, path of heaven. Even though you have endured so many pain, so many torment, your soul still stands tall, and refuses to break. Naruto, you're truly a man who walks the path of heaven. Never lose yourself, and never forget, and I'm happy to have a grandson Lee, Ku. Sayonara, Naruto-kun. Flashback end. Despite the comfort provided by Yoko, Hikari's death had still hit Naruto hard. It had taken nearly a month for Naruto to step forward the future. After gathering all the money, jewels and sealing the small house Naruto had used to live with Hikari in a large sealing scroll with Yoko's instruction, Naruto had embarked for a new journey. For several months, he had wandered the region and fought many foes. He had soon found a hidden temple that housed the restless souls of 7 powerful shinobi. Sub-Zero Master of Cold and Ice MK Deception, Scorpion Master of Flames MK9, Reptile Master of Poisons UMK3, Smoke Master Stealth MK9 Default Costume, Ermac Master of the Mind MK9, Noob Master of Shadows MK9 Secondary Costume but with human skin instead of black, and Rain Master of Storms MK Armageddon. They had imparted Naruto with their knowledge and fighting skills so they could move to the afterlife, seeing as he had been the only worthy person to come to their temple in a long time. Before leaving, they gave Naruto his current clothes as well as summoning scroll. To Naruto's surprise, the scroll was for the legendary Dragon Clan. He had signed it and summoned one of them. He had been shocked to see a small man with a dragon's head, Chinese dragon to be exact, with a long mustache, beard and eyebrow that would put Guy and Lee to shame. He wore monk robes and had a long wooden staff. At first, the Dragon Clan hadn't been impressed with him, as they thought of him as a flea since the dragons are the most respected clan of summons and unlike other summons not just anyone could sign it. After a hard test, the dragons were impressed with his determination and after finding about his life their respect skyrocketed. Why, you might ask? Well, because the pain and torment his former home had put him through and yet he didn't want revenge. He simply said he had to move on and don't look back, but that he wouldn't forgive them for what they did. Finally, after many centuries the Dragon Clan had a summoner once again. They gave Naruto the mark of the dragon, which was a tattoo on his back, the one Shiryu from Saint Seiya has on his back. Their clan crest was also woven onto the back of his shirt, the Mortal Kombat dragon logo. From there he continued his travels to the western regions. While wandering, he found himself in a hidden village. The difference between this and other ninja villages was that all the population was shinobi and part of the only 2 clans, the Hayabusa and the Mugen Tenshi. While exploring the outskirts of village he had found a man running away with a little girl who was crying. Naruto hadn't wasted a moment and rescued the girl who had been revealed to be the clan heiress from the Mugen Tenshi, and the ninja had been an enemy from the Black Spider clan. Moments later, after calming the girl, a group of shinobi from the village had taken Naruto into custody and brought to the village leaders who had been the 2 clan heads. After he and the little girl had explained what happened, Naruto had been freed and allowed to be in the village for a time. There they had seen his potential and helped him train in the use of the traditional ninja tools. One day the entire village received a shock. The reason being was during an invasion by the Black Spider clan Naruto was able to wield the cursed dark dragon sword and not be corrupted by it. The elders had discovered that only a pure soul could claim the sword as his own and the sword would be bound to that person forever. Even if he dies no one would be able to use the sword. After Naruto died, the sword would turn into a normal katana, and while Naruto was alive, powerful and painful red lighting would shock anyone else who would try to claim the sword. After several months and with his training finished he left, but not before receiving a small present from the little girl he saved, a small kiss on the cheek. 1 month after he left the village, Using the clothes his masters gave him to conceal his identity if some familiar faces came by and the dark dragon sword strapped at his back, Naruto had met another one of his future wives, Hotogi Shirayuki. At that time, she was surrounded by many Nukenin and was on her last leg after fighting with them. With Dark Dragon Sword, Naruto had easily dispatched the Nukenin and helped the fair maiden. After that, Shirayuki had insisted on traveling with him so she could repay her life debt, despite his protests. Eventually, Naruto had agreed and Shirayuki had hopelessly fallen in love with him, to the point that she would have poked his eyes if he had gazed any girls for too long or had gone berserk and assault any girls flirting with him, as well as had already planned having 6 or 7 children with Naruto. 3 months passed after he had met Shirayuki. His life had been about to change when he encountered the first of his new family and his other's future wives, much to Shirayuki's annoyance and dismay. He found a group of villagers who were fighting an army of bandits. The villagers had been losing badly, so Naruto and Shirayuki had decided to help them since they didn't like the strong abusing the weak. They had slashed, burned, froze, electrocuted and did other things to their enemies that even some prisoners still had nightmares after what Naruto and Shirayuki had done. After the bandits' numbers had been lowered, Naruto and Shirayuki along with a group of villagers aided by Aisha, Tuka, Rinrin, Hinari and Shuri had managed to completely defeat them. Naruto and Shirayuki had been welcomed to the village and after a while, started their travels again, only this time they had other the girls came with him, again much to Shirayuki's ire. In this new journey Naruto had met the other members of his family, his future daughter Riri, Tanpopo and his other 5 future wives, Sei, Sui, Shion, Anya and Kikyo. All of them knew of his burden and didn't hold it against him, and after hearing what had happened in his former home, they had wanted to cut off some heads, especially Shirayuki, Aisha, Sei, Sui, Tuka, Shion, Kikyo, Anya and even the shy Hinari and Shuri wanted to strangle all the fool in Konoha. Yes, they really loved their blonde idiot. They had allied themselves with different factions in order to bring peace to the chaos-torn West. Their final battle had been against the evil sorcerer Ukitsu, who had tried to conquer the land using an army of stone soldiers, but with the information and the help of a girl named Shinomiya Ayase along with 2 Seireis and later became his wives, Yatogami Toka and Tokasaki Kurumi, his end had come before he could do major damage at the hand of Naruto's, Shirayuki's and Toka's swords. Or so they had thought. A few days after the battle, they had found out that Ukitsu had just only been a distraction. A decoy no less. The real plan had been executed by a man whose name had been Guy, which had been quite ironic. His plan had been using a girl whose name was Yuzuria Inori as a catalyst to unleash a very powerful pulse into the world and turned everything into crystal. It had been the hardest and craziest battle Naruto had ever fighted, and it had been a miracle that he had won. Flashback. A heavy injured Naruto was standing in a crystal field, the black dragon sword in his right hand. His left arm was hanging limply on his shoulder as many places on his body had been crystallized while his clothes had been dyed blood red by his own blood. In front of him was a heavy injured man with long blonde hair, as said man was sneering at Naruto venomously. Behind the blonde man was a crystal pillar as an unconscious was entrapped into it. "Why do you fight? Why do you want to protect those pathetic humans?" spat Guy as he pointed his sword at Naruto. "Human are like ants. They populate in great number. But unlike ants, humans are greedy, selfish, liars and willing to backstab one another if they thought doing so would benefit them. Humans are cancer of this world and I am gonna exterminate it." Suddenly, a very long and hollowed laugh could be heard from Naruto as his eyes now was dark crimson with slits in his eyes. "You think I fight for humans? I fight to protect. Yes, but it is for my family, my loved ones, my friends and my comrades." My Obaa-chan said, "Even in a world full only with enemies, there will always be someone you must protect. When I looked into Inori-chan's memories, I saw her loneliness, her respect and devotion to you, yet you use her like a tool for your scheme. And right here, right now, I will make you pay for that. And how are you gonna do that? Sneered Guy. Another hollow laugh, and it started making Guy's blood boiled. It has been quite a long time since the last time I used it. Oh well, it seems I have no choice. Wait, Naruto-kun, cried Yoko as she now understood what Naruto was going to use, but it was too late. Clock up, roared Naruto as he literally disappeared with a speed that could rival with the light. Before Guy could take in what had happened, his head had already rolled on the ground as his body was cut apart. Flashback end. It really had been a miracle that Naruto had survived after using Clock Up in that state, and Inori had finally been rescued, but due to his recklessness, he had gotten many earful scolds from everyone except Inori, whose devotion now completely focused on Naruto, much to Shirayuki's annoyance since there was one more person she had to share Naruto with. With the threats had finally ended, Naruto and company returned to Tuka village to live in peace and help the village should the need arise. 1 week after Inori's rescue and Guy's death, one of Naruto's dreams was fulfilled. With his research seal he had created, he had managed to reverse the seal, and Yoko finally had been freed from the seal. It had been one of the 2 happiest days of his life, and it had also been one of the most painful days in his life, as the girls had started beating the light out of him because he had forgotten to mention that Yoko had been a stunning beauty, and the fact that she had been when she appeared in all her glory hadn't helped much. Looking at the large photo hanging on the wall, Naruto couldn't help but smile happily at the memory. The photo had been taken 4 months ago in his wedding. Standing in the center was Naruto, who was clad in a white tuxedo suit with an orange tie and a big smile on his face as Riri laced onto him, giggling happily. To his left was Yoko, Aisha, Hanari and Shuri, who were blushing madly, Toka, Anya and Kikyu. To his right was Shirayuki, Shion, Tuka, Sei, Sui, Inori and Kurumi. In front of him was Ayas sitting on a wheelchair smiling brightly, as Tanpopo and Rinrin standing on each side in their usual attire while pumping their fist and exclaiming, "We will have our Oni-chan when we're grown up," much to Naruto's embarrassment. All the brides were dressed in white satin and silk wedding dress, with the exception of Yoko, who was clad in a crimson wedding kimono. Life was really good for Naruto. Konoha. The Hokage of Konohagakure stood before the Konoha 12 with his 2 new advisors, Hyuga Hiyashi and Tsunade. Added with Uchiha Sasuke, Sai, who took the place of Uzumaki Naruto, who was one of the originals, Iruka, Anko, Hana, the senseis of the 4 teams, Hatake Kakashi, Yamato, Yuhi Kurenai, Sarutobi Asuma, Might Guy and Jiraiya, stood in attendance to the Hokage, who also happened to be his student. But there were 3 new people standing beside the group. The first one was the famous Red Death of Konoha, Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina. Even in her 40s, she still looked quite stunning with her crimson hair and athletic body figure. On both of her side were her elder daughters and Naruto's older sister by 5 minutes, Akane and Akemi. Both of them had hourglass figure with C-cup, long crimson hair and violet eyes like their mother. The only difference between them was their hairstyle. While Akane let her hair reach down to her back, Akemi tied her hair into a ponytail. Both of them was the most sought-after kunoichi in Konoha thanks to their beauty. When Sasuke had tried to get both of them go on a date with him, they had beat him senseless since they saw the duck butt tem as the reason why their Otudo had been banished. Clearing his throat, Minato said in his serious tone, "This will be an S-class mission. Your mission object is to find the person and bring him back here. You are authorized to use as much force as necessary to bring him back to the village." Everyone nodded their head in understanding. This was a rare S-ranked mission of the highest caliber that could make or break the village in the way the Hokage had said, making it clear that failure wasn't an option. For Uchiha Sasuke, this mission was a golden chance that would bring him untold amount of glory and all but legitimize Sasuke's appointment to the position as the primary candidate for being the Rokudaime Hokage. Not to mention this would impress Akane and Akemi, his chosen wives, to restore the Uchiha clan to its former glory. And then Minato added with an authorized tone as he shuddered, "And the most important thing is he must be alive and mostly unharmed at all cost." Or else, my wife will not leave all of you and me alive. No worry, Minato-kun. I and our daughters will go with them to make sure of that, said Kushina as she flooded the room with killing intent, which made even Minato throw away the idea of objecting his wife's decision. Who is the object of this mission, Hokage-sama? Asked Sakura curiously, wondering who could the possible target could be, while other people had already had a hint about who they would bring back, judging from how Minato stressed the alive and unharmed part, not to mention Kushina and her daughters in the team. To Sakura, this was a chance to make her stand out in the eyes of the Uchiha who was still ignoring her in the favor of the Hokage's daughters, and prove that she is much better than those two redhead bimbo. The target of this mission is my son, Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, stated Minato in his dead serious tone. Ayase-chan, are you in there? Called Naruto as he knocked the door of Ayase's workshop. After a few moments not receive any answers, Naruto stepped in. Her workshop littered with electronics and many different kinds of machine, while on the other side of the workshop, Ayase was working non-stop on what looked like a white humanoid machine with being about 4 meters tall, totally unaware of the surrounding and her husband who was silently coming close to her. As Naruto gently tapped her shoulder, which nearly made Ayase jump from her wheelchair, she turned around and saw her husband smiling at her lovingly. Her hair was a little messy while her face was dirty from sweat. Crouching down to his wife's level gaze, Naruto gently cleaned Ayase's face with a clean towel hanging on the wall as Ayase pouted at her husband's action. I'm not a kid, you know, said Ayase, I can do it myself. Don't you remember what I said? Chuckled Naruto as he kissed Ayase's cheek after cleaning her face. It isn't wrong to receive the help from the others. We human are not perfect, after all. And you should take some rest, Ayase-chan. It's 10 p.m. now, and that Endlave project you're working on has taken you so much time that beside mealtimes, I barely see you outside the workshop. Letting out a long sigh, Ayase turned her beautiful brown eyes to her now completed project as her voice became somber while Naruto just kept silent. I know, Naruto-kun. But you know how I hate being pitied. I'm not as strong as Shirayuki, Aisha or Sway. I'm maybe smart, but I'm still far from intelligent compared to Hinari, Shuri or Shion. I don't have the enormous power like Yoko, Toka and Kurumi. Quote, smiling grimly, Ayase continued as her eyes gazed into the air in reminiscence as tears started gathering in her eyes. Quote, that day, the first time when I met you. It isn't an exaggeration to say that it was the love at the first sight. But then, I was so worried. I was, and even now, just a wheelchair-bounded girl. I wondered if you would notice me, if I had a chance with so many gorgeous girls and women surrounding you. Even now, I'm still scared that I will become nothing but a burden to you and the others. I refuse to let this wheelchair become my disability. I refuse to become a burden. I want to become stronger so that I can stand by your side and help you with all the burden you have carried. Suddenly, Ayase's eyes shot wide open as she was pulled into Naruto's embrace while her face was buried into his chest. Despite the uncomfortable position they were in because of the wheelchair, Ayase snuggled into her husband's embrace as she silently let her tears fall. You are not, and will never be a burden, Ayase-chan. If it wasn't for your information, then we wouldn't be able to kill Ukitsu. And you purged the curse in Chrysogrim and gave it to me. Said Naruto as he caressed his wife's hair lovingly. Do not sell yourself short, Shino. No, Mrs. Tendo Shinomiya Ayase-chan. You're more capable than you think, and I know it because I'm your husband. Smiling at her husband's words, Ayase hugged Naruto tightly as she looked at his face. His eyes never wavered as his iron will resolve to protect his precious people was always a comfort to her, and it just one of the reasons why she had fallen in love with him. Snuggling into Naruto's embrace, she let out a content sigh and rested her head on his chest. She would never trade this peaceful and protected feeling for anything, even if it was the world or even a whole universe. Suddenly, Ayase yelped loudly as Naruto scooped her up from her wheelchair and held her in bridal style. Perking a kiss on Ayasa's forehead, Naruto said loudly as he ran toward the bathroom with Ayase on his arms. Okay, no more working. Let's take a bath and have our night, fun. Shirayuki Haim and Kurumi-chan don't like to wait. Kya, put me down, Naruto baka. At least let me test the endlave and bring the wheelchair with me. Squealed Ayase as she held onto her husband's shirt in order not to fall from his arms. Meanwhile, somewhere in the western land, with Konoha retrieval team. Damn, that will be the last time I, accidentally, groped Hinata or Tenten when Anko or Kushina is around, groaned a certain silvered hair pervert as he nursed his wounds after a vicious beating from all the women in the retrieval team. Normally, he would use the wounds as an excuse to make someone, preferred women, to treat him, but now he had more important things to care about. 1 week before this mission, Shion, a priestess from Oni no Kuni, had made a prophecy. Usually, Jiraiya would never care about a human-made prophecy and simply ignored it. But the fact that the prophet Shion had made was exactly like the new prophecy the Toad had made was very disturbing, and it was like a confirmation that the prophecy had changed. Flashback, the days after Naruto's banishment. What do you mean by, the prophecy has changed, Fukusaku-sama? Asked Jiraiya after a sudden reversed summon from the Elder Toad. I mean exactly what I said, Jiraiya-chan. The prophecy has changed, said Fukusaku slowly as he recited the new prophecy in front of a shocked Jiraiya. A child who was born in the oblivion and abandoned shall rise. No torment and despair can break the stand tall soul. Everyone walks their own path, but every path starts from the path of heaven. Walking the path of heaven, the child shall bring the peace and harmony shall commence. And that is the new prophecy, said the old Toad as he heaved a long, heavy sigh. Flashback end, and then the other villages' reaction after they had heard the banishment of Naruto. Just merely in 1 week, every alliance Konoha had earned from the missions Team 7 had done had been broken by many angry leaders. Wave Country, Spring Country and so on. Only the alliance between Konoha and Suna was still intact, but now was in a more indifferent term. Is everything okay, Jiraiya-sama? Asked Kakashi with his usual lazy voice as he looked at the Toad Sennin with concern. No. Nothing, just a sudden thought, said Jiraiya as he turned his eyes toward Kushina, who was having a conversation with her daughters, Akane and Akemi. Letting out a long sigh, Jiraiya's mind drifted back to the day the Namikaze's family returned. Flashback, about 2 weeks after the banishment of Naruto. In the Hokage office, a smug Senju Tsunade was having a drink with Jiraiya as she let out a satisfying sigh. Beside the damn paperwork, no more demon brat to worry about. No more bitching from the council about eliminating the demon. More time for sake. Life was good, or so she thought. Suddenly, an Anbu shunshin Ed in the Hokage office and said in a frantical manner. Hokage-sama, we have an emergence. The Yondaime. Hold it, what did you just say? Asked Jiraiya as he choked the sake he was drinking. The Yondaime, Jiraiya-sama. The Yondaime is still alive along with his family, said the Anbu as Tsunade jumped out of her seat. What the hell are you saying? Yelled Tsunade, but before she could say anything more, a tri-prong kunai flew into the office. As the kunai embed into the ground, Namikaze Minato along with his wife, Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina and 2 red-haired girls who were about Naruto's age appeared in a flash of yellow. It has been a while since the last time we met, Tsunade-sama, said Minato with a small smile. Long time no see, Tsunade-ba-chan, said Kushina brightly as Tsunade's jaw dropped on the ground. What in the world was happening? Didn't the Yondaime and Kushina died after sealing the Kyuubi inside the demon brat? Why were they still alive? And who were these 2 girls? Minato. What? How? But I thought, sputtered the slug Sanin is what she wanted to just kept dying in her throat before it could be said. Well, at first, I didn't even believe myself, said Minato as he scratched his head sheepishly. Well, it started like this. 20 minutes later, Senju Tsunade was very nervous as she tried to keep her face straight. What Minato had just said while was very fascinating, it also scared her. So, let's me sum it up, said Tsunade slowly so she wouldn't miss any points. First of all, there was a strange man wearing an orange mask attacked and extracted the Kyuubi from Kushina. At that time, Minato decided to use Shiki Fuin in order to separate Kyuubi's chakra into two parts and sealed them inside your two elder daughters, Akane and Akemi, while the soul was sealed inside the youngest of your triplet, Naruto. For some unknown reasons, the Shinigami spared your life but said that there would be prices to pay. Using that, you decided to fake your and Kushina's death and left the village. You two brought Akane and Akemi along in order to train both of them in using Kyuubi chakra while Naruto was left in Konoha. Yes, that's the gist of the plan, nodded Minato. At that time, Konoha had been weakened while I might kill the man attacked us, but we wasn't sure if that man had allies or not. With the training, Akane and Akemi would be prepared if there were more coming, and despite our personal feeling, we had to left Naruto-kun at Konoha since his Jinchuriki status would make the enemy villages think twice before attacking Konoha. I hope Hiruzen-sama had taught him not to have a big head from the villagers treating him like a hero. Tsunade flinched at what Minato said, and this didn't go unnoticed by Akane and Akemi. Did Hiruzen-sensei know about this? Asked Jiraiya quietly. No, he didn't. Said Minato, but before he could finish what he wanted to say, an impatient Kushina butted in. Okay, enough talking and rambling, Databane. Please quickly bring Naru-chan here, Tsunade. I want to see my Sochi-kun, and the girls need to meet their Otudo younger brother. And we need to make it up for him after the time he had to stay here by himself. We're his family, said Kushina loudly as Tsunade and Jiraiya started sweating bullet. After swallowing loudly, Jiraiya spoke carefully. Well, Naruto isn't here, but he was cut off by Kushina. Is he training? Then call an Anbu and bring my Sochi-kun here right now, said Kushina as her temper started rising. Well, no, actually Naruto, said the super pervert as he struggled to said the truth. Is he on the mission? Asked Minato as he tried to calm his wife down. No, said Tsunade as she could feel the dread of what she was going to say. Minato, Kushina, actually, Naruto, Tsunade, where is my Sochi-kun? Kushina finally lost her calm as she jumped from her seat and yelled angrily, I demand you to bring my Sochi-kun to here right now. Swallowing another lump, Jiraiya gathered all of his courage before it could dissipate into the air and said what would bring the legend of hot-blooded habanero back to life. Kushina, the truth is, Naruto was banished 2 weeks ago. He is no longer in Konoha now. Flashback end. That day, damn, Jiraiya even didn't want to think about it. Just thinking about the number of council members that Kushina had beaten was terrified enough. But things hadn't stopped there. With the return of their beloved Yondaime Hokage, the villagers of Cornhole. Konoha had celebrated a very large festival for their beloved hero, and for the princesses of Konoha. The festival should have been a success if the status of Naruto being the son of Minato hadn't been revealed by the Yondaime Hokages himself. Needless to say, many civilians started hailing the demon brat as the hero who keeps the demon soul at bay, so that they could get on the Namikaze's good side. As Tsunade had stepped back to let Minato take back the Hokage's mantle, a large operation with the participation of many Anbu, Junin and Chunin had been executed in order to find and retrieve the Yondaime's son. But somehow, Naruto had disappeared and left not even a single trace. And the Toad couldn't reverse summoned him since they had removed Naruto from the contract. And everything had just kept getting worse. When Minato and Kushina had asked the Konoha 12 about Naruto, most of them hadn't known much about their son beside being short-tempered, like to play pranks on others people, yet very protective toward his friends, always training by himself as well as always seeking the attention and recognition from the villagers, and finally, being an unpredictable knucklehead. The two people knew Naruto best were Hinata, since she had spent so much time stalking the blonde, and Ayame, since she along with Tsuki had interacted with their favorite customer for a long time. At that time, Hinata hadn't provided much information aside from the same information both Minato and Kushina had received, as she had just kept crying and mumbling apologies for seeing Naruto as Kyuubi's reincarnation. And Ayame, well, the meeting hadn't been as bad as the Namikaze's family had been afraid. It had been worse. Flashback. Slap. Asterisk. The sound of Ayame, who had just become 16 the day before slapping the Yondaime Hokage's wife, echoed throughout the empty Ichiraku ramen bar. Minato and Jiraiya was shocked to see a civilian girl could make AS rank. Experienced Kunoichi liked Kushina stumbled with a slap like that, while Tsuki was so shocked at his daughter's reaction that he could only look with his mouth opened. Agape. How dare you call yourself a mother after what you did? Yelled Ayame as her tears were rolling on her face. What kind of mother accepted to left his youngest son to fend for himself? Is this village more important than your son? Don't you dare tell me that. My Sochi-kun is much more important than this village, yelled Kushina as she was enraged by Tsuki's daughter. Slap. Asterisk. Before Kushina could react, she was hit at her cheek by another slap coming from a furious Ayame as Kushina once again stumbled because of the slap. And yet you left him behind, when he was an infant no less. It's like you literally throw him away and left him at the mercy of those damn villagers. Accused Ayame venomously as Kushina suddenly found that the floor was more interesting than Ayame's piercing gaze. Please understand, Ayame-san, said Minato as he tried to reason with a scorned Ayame, we really want. I don't give a damn about your reasons. What I know is you don't have the right to call yourself his Tou-san. And I will say nothing about Naruto-kun because all three of you, Jiraiya-sama and Hokage-sama and your wife, don't deserve to know it. Now get out of my sight before I shove my kitchen knives down your throat. Roared Ayame as she pointed her kitchen knife, which somehow had mysteriously appeared in her hand, at the Hokage. Usually, Minato wouldn't have any problem dealing with a knife pointing at his face, but when the person holding the knife was a scorned woman, it was an entirely different matter. Without any other choices, Minato held onto an unreadable Kushina as her hair was covering her eyes and left the ramen bar by using Hiraishin, and Jiraiya quickly left via Shunshin. As moment all the guests had finally left, the knife in Ayame's hand fell on the ground as she fell on her knees and crying uncontrollably as her face was burying in her hands while she kept mumbling, Naruto-kun. Quickly recovering from the shock, Tsuki hugged his daughter and tried to give her all the comfort he could give. Flashback end. And from that day, a new sign writing, "No serving for the Namikaze's family," had been hanged outside the Ichiraku. Although the sign made the ramen bar lost quite a number of customers and also brought some threats from the zealot to them, the Ichiraku still refused to take the sign down. Shaking his head again, Jiraiya could only hope that when Naruto came back, everything would become better. Toka's village. Achoo! Sneezed Naruto as he pinched the bridge of his nose. Someone is talking about me, he thought. Bless you, Naruto-kun, said Shuri while carrying a suspicious orange book on her hand. Thank you, Shuri-chan, said Naruto as he patted on Shuri's head, which made Shuri pouted. While she had become taller, she along with Hinari were the shortest ones of Naruto's wives because of their petite figures, and sometimes it made outsiders think they were siblings, not husband and wives. Naruto, Shuri and Rinrin were returning home after buying some things like food that Shion had asked them to, as well some ink and papers for Shuri, some yakimo roasted sweet potato for Shirayuki, some taiyaki Japanese fish-shaped cake for Toka, and some yokon thick, jellied dessert made of red bean paste, agar, and sugar for Kurumi. Naruto was carrying both bags, while Rinrin had a bag full of buns. I hope you aren't getting sick, Oni-chan, said Rinrin a little worried for her big brother. If you are sick, I have some medicine back home, said Shuri. Nah, no need to worry, you two. Maybe someone is just talking about me, he answered. I bet they are those fools from Kana, Kino, Kanu, tried to say Rinrin. Konoha, Rinrin, Konoha, said Shuri. Yeah that, she said with a mad yet cute face while stuffing a bun into her mouth. Well, they're probably burning a figure of me, the Kyuubi brat, Naruto said with a humorless chuckle. They should have never banished you, Naruto-kun, said Shuri while holding her book tighter. In fact, I'm very glad that they did, chuckled Naruto. Both Shuri and Rinrin looked at Naruto feeling really confused. Why did you say that, Oni-chan? Aren't you mad that they banished you for doing your job? Rinrin would be really angry, spoke Rinrin as her hand baled into a fist. Looking at his petite wife and his oath little sister lovingly, Naruto said softly. Yes, Rinrin, I was mad, but if they hadn't done it, I would have never met Yoko-chan, Hikari Obaa-chan, Shirayuki Haim, both of you and everyone else. Now I have a weird yet happy and perfect family, have a Masumi-liked Riri, and the most important thing is, you, Shuri along with everyone else, are my wives. I will never trade this to anything in the world. Shuri let out a small giggle as a very small tear escaped her eyes. You were right, Naruto-kun, if you weren't here the rescue of Riri may have gone differently, and if Tuka, Shirayuki and you hadn't defeated Ukatsu with your swords, he may be ruling us now. And you are the one who saved Inori and stopped that madman guy, Naruto-kun. Sorry Oni-chan, I didn't think about that. Rinrin is glad that you are here with us, said Rinrin as she looked at the ground in embarrassment. Me, too, Rinrin-chan. Me, too, said Naruto with a smile on his face as he patted Rinrin's head. Though it was really a surprise that you declined to become an emperor after all the good deeds you had done to this place, Naruto-kun. You're a hero of this land. Shrugging his shoulders, Naruto said indifferently. I prefer working and doing by myself. I'm not the kind who sit behind a table and doing boring paperwork while my comrades fight out there. And before you ask anything, Shuri-chan, the Kage Bushin might help me doing with the paperwork, but when it dispels, I will receive its memories as well as its hate toward the paperwork, and it will stress me. Trust me, I already tried it once. Suddenly Shuri stopped and the book she was carrying fell to the ground, her eyes bugged out of their sockets. Shuri, are you okay? Asked Rinrin. Hawawa, were the only words she could muster while shakily pointing a finger in front of them. Naruto and Rinrin looked in front to see a woman surrounded by people of different ages, children, teens and adults. Who is that? Asked Rinrin, while Naruto's eyes were as wide as Shuri's. That's Kazuhana Koyuki, also known as Fujika's Yukie, a famous actress known for her role as Princess Gale, Naruto interrupted Shuri. How do you know that, Oni-chan? Said Rinrin. Because I had already met her once. We know each other from way back, said Naruto eyeing the famous actress. You do, Naruto-kun? Asked Shuri with star in her eyes. Want to go say hello, Shuri-chan? Shuri only moved her head up and down really quick, and then the group approached the princess of the land of spring. Yukie Haim, yelled Naruto in order to get the actress' attention. For her part, Koyuki was caught off guard by the yell and looked around until she got a glimpse of a blond man in black formal suit with a black trench coat who was accompanied by a small red head and a blonde girl. She couldn't recognize the figure, but after seeing his deep blue eyes and spiky hair, her mind could only think about one person that would call her like that. Naruto-kun, said Koyuki as she slowly came near the blonde. The one and only, smiled Naruto as he gave Koyuki a nod. Naruto-kun, she yelled back while running, and then she gave him a grand hug, causing him to drop the bags he was carrying. Luckily, Rinrin and Shuri got them before they landed on the ground. Naruto, why are you here? Where have you been? Are you alright? Where are your whisker marks? Asked Koyuki rapidly. Can't breathe, said Naruto while his face started to turn purple. Oh sorry Naruto-kun, it's just, that I'm glad that you are safe. After you were banished from Konoha, all of us thought that you were dead, said Koyuki. Also, who are those two? Well, The redhead here is Rinrin, my sister, and here is Shuri, my wife, said Naruto happily as Koyuki could only stare at him. I don't mean disrespect Naruto, but are you a lolicon? Asked Koyuki as Naruto could only fell face fault on the ground after hearing this while Rinrin and Shuri were trying to control their giggles. Why, Kami, why do people think I am a lolicon? Said Naruto as he cried anime tears. First of all, no, I'm not a lolicon, and secondly, Shuri-chan may be short but she is old enough to marry. So please, no more lolicon comment, Koyuki Haim. Quote, if that's what you said, Koyuki only gave him a smile. Well, it's a pleasure to meet both of you. Any friend of Oni-chan is a friend of us, said Rinrin with a smile on her face. Koyuki noticed the blonde girl Shuri behind Naruto looked a little scared. What's wrong, Shuri-san? Said Naruto. Shuri then took out a picture from her pocket. The person in the picture was no other than Koyuki as Princess Gale. Can I get an autograph, please? She said shyly as Koyuki only smiled and took the picture and signed it. Shuri for her part was really happy and thanked the actress. So what are you doing here, Haim? Questioned Naruto. Well, we just finished some scenes from my newest movie and the director really liked to come and film here after all became peaceful. Now, we're on break and we leave tomorrow, she said. So where are you staying? Questioned Naruto. In a small inn, the Tigress at the center of town. Oh, Rinrin knows that place, it's near home. We could walk you there, said the hyperactive redhead. I have a better idea, Rinrin, said Naruto with a small smile. Really, Oni-chan? Yeah, Yukie Haim is going to accompany us to dinner. I don't think anyone would mind, right? I don't want to intrude, said Koyuki, feeling really bashful. Don't worry, said Shuri while poking her fingers. I think they would like you to drop by. They, thought Koyuki confusingly, but she quickly shook it off. Well, okay, I'll just inform the director. And with that Koyuki left only to return moments later and leave with Naruto and his companions. That night at Mansion, all the inhabitants and their guest enjoyed a nice dinner. Bringing Koyuki turned out to be better but a little more embarrassing for her, especially after Koyuki learned that all the female members in the mansion, except Rinrin and Tanpopo, were Naruto's wives, and the fact that one of them was the Nine-Tails Kitsune that once had been sealed inside Naruto while another one was Inori, the favorite singer of Koyuki, was something really hard to believe. And for the girls, well, almost all of the girls were fans of the actress. When they finished the dinner they exchanged stories, like Naruto and his family's adventures through the West as well as him having 15 wives. Koyuki warned them to not try and pull a Konoha on him because she thought of his as a brother and was a hero to her and her people. Needless to say, everyone from Yoko, Shirayuki to Inori said they would die before doing that to him. Koyuki also told them about how Naruto had saved her land from the hands of her evil uncle and how many places viewed him as their hero. She also told Naruto that except Suna, all of Konoha allies left severed their alliances with them for what they did to him. Naruto was shocked that so many people would stand up for him, but he managed to change a lot of people on those places for the better. The next day Naruto and all of the girls went to see Koyuki off. She promised them to send tickets to the premiere of the movie, but not forget to ask an autograph from Inori. While Naruto was back in the mansion, he could see some of the girls doing some of their regular activities. Sui and Tanpopo were training. Rinrin was with Aisha, Tuka and Anya under a tree. Shion and Kikyo were drinking sake, that reminded him of the old hag, Tsunade, well except that both of his wives were billions of times more beautiful than the old hag and didn't need genjutsu to look beautiful. Inori was reading some music sheets of her new songs. Shirayuki had been teaching Toka how to look like a proper lady, but somehow it became a sword clash after a few minutes. Shuri and Himari were writing letters to her mentor Shibaki while Ayase and Kurumi were nowhere to be seen. Then Naruto felt a pull on his leg and looked down. There he saw little Riri holding the stuffed fox he gave her a while back. "Chu-san," said the cute little girl. "Could you play with me?" Of course I can play with you, Riri-chan, so what do you want to play? Naruto smiled at her and picked her up. Horsey, said Riri with a big smile. The only thing Naruto did was to go to the garden with her, and then he was in all four saying, "Hop on, my little Haim-chan." The rest of the girls could only watch as the little girl smiled and laughed by just being carried by Naruto. Suddenly Tuka got up really quick and ran to Naruto. When she got there she saw Naruto and Riri. The only thing she kept saying was sorry. "What are you apologizing for, Tuka-chan?" he asked. "Yesterday I was so excited about Yukie being here that I forgot to give you this," and with that she pulled a letter. Naruto saw the royal seal of the N family. He put Rinrin down and started to read. To Tendo Naruto, I, Reiha, head of the N family, invite you to participate in a martial arts tournament to be held by me in honor of my restored city of Jingzhou. The tournament will be held there in 2 weeks' time after receiving this letter. Since you are the only one in your group that can fight hand to hand, I sent you this invitation to participate. Of course, I will send more invitations to our former allies who fought against Uketsu as well as who had helped in the crystal incident. Karen's representative is going to be none other than Nagi. Maybe you can end the draw in the battles you have. Ho 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 ho. Remember 2 weeks after you receive this letter. From Reiha of the N family. P.S. Karen seems kinda pissed because of the paperwork after you destroyed a dock along with several boats and ships in the last criminal hunting operation, so I recommend you to prepare in case she throws some kind of payback to you. Jingzhou, I'm going to have a concert at there 4 days later, said Inori aloud. Quote. So are you going to participate, Naruto-kun? Asked Yoko after Naruto put the letter down. Maybe. Nagi and I haven't fought in a while and the game of chess we have been playing by letters isn't going fast enough, he answered. Sometimes I can't understand why both of you want to play that kind of chess, grumbled Shirayuki. Still, a trip to Jingzhou would be a relaxing change of pace, Naruto-koi, said Shion while holding her daughter in her arms. Though I have a bad feeling about this, said Toka thoughtfully. So what do you all say, should we go? Asked Naruto as he turned to his wives, who responded with some nods. Well, Tanpopo-chan, can you please find Ayase-chan and Kurumi-chan and tell them to prepare for a trip to Jingzhou? In Jingzhou tournament, watch out, because Tendo Naruto is coming. It was quiet evening in the city of Jingzhou. The celebration had died alongside the day. In a hot spring in one of the inns, Naruto was taking a relaxing bath as he let out a content sigh. He and his family had arrived in the beautiful city 2 days ago, and the elimination round of the tournament was quite tiring with a large number of fighters iPadding, not to mention the encounter between him and Karen had been quite interesting to say the least. Flashback. Inside the royal palace of Jingzhou City, Naruto was being shaken vigorously by a shorter girl who had blonde hair tied into 2 drill-like pigtails, as Naruto's blue eyes had been turned into 2 swirls while the girl kept shaking him and yelling at him. Do you know how much paperwork I had to do after your stunt? A dock had been completely destroyed along with 93 ships and more than 200 boats. Just what the hell did you think to cause such a chaos like that, for God's sake? Quote. Stop, Loli-chan. My choice, maybe, a little bit, overkilled, said Naruto as his swirly eyes refused to come back to normal while he started feeling the motion sickness due to the shaking he was receiving. He could only pray to all the deities that the shaking would stop soon. A little bit, what is your definition of, a little bit? What kind of, a little bit, that's so much damage? You should feel graceful that no civilian had been injured after your stunt. Yelled Karen as she just kept holding the collar of Naruto's shirt and shaking the life out of the taller blonde to the point that his wives started feeling worried. It seemed the deities decided to ignore Naruto's prayers in order to watch him in misery. Quote. Karen, that's enough. Finally, Yoko decided to interfere before her husband could be turned into some kind of drooling rag doll because of the shaking. With a loud huff, Karen dropped the swirly eyes blonde onto the ground as she said in annoyance. I hope you will do something to make it up for the troubles and paperworks you threw at me. Thing, you, say. Loli-chan, said Naruto as he shakily stood up with Ania's and Inori's help. Though the Loli-chan part had made Karen's eyebrow twitch. Fufufu, did you said anything? Said Karen with a devilish yet lustful and sultry smile which immediately made Naruto regretted his words. How about a little deal that would, let's just say, benefit to both sides? Flashback end. Not having any other choice, Naruto had to accept the deal Karen had offered. According to the deal, if Naruto happened to lose in the tournament, he would have to come and stay at her palace in GI for 1 week to help her and her subordinates, release the stress that had been building up. If he won the tournament, Karen would say nothing more about what he had wrecked. Needless to say, his wives weren't happy with that. Flashback. Ho ho ho, I hope the deal will be carried out since you have accepted it, Naruto-kun, giggled Karen behind her hand as the silver-hair female warrior named Nagi sent him a challenging smirk. Shunrin, Shurin, Kifa, Nagi, we're leaving. And good luck, Naruto-kun, you are gonna need it. After the leader of GI and her subordinates left, a huge wave of killing intent crashed into Naruto as Shirayuki's katana, Irokane Ayame, and Toka's broadsword, Halvanhelev, not to mention Aisha's green dragon crescent blade, Toka's imperial sword and Kurumi's flintlock pistol as well as weapons from the other girls all pointed at their poor blonde husband. At the side, both Shuri and Hanari had teary eyes as Shion, Kikyo and Ayase wore a same frightening smile while the rest of the girls, with the exception of Yoko, Inori, Rinrin, Tanpopo and Riri, just glared at their husband. I presume that you will win this tournament flawlessly, right Naruto-koi? Asked Shion with a very sweet smile that was just wrong on so many levels. Of course he will win, Shion. At least have some faith on our husband, said Kikyo sweetly with a frightening aura around her. While I would careless about you win or lose, honey, I hope you will do your best and wipe the smirk on that silver hair bitch's face, said Kurumi with a psychotic smile as her left eye had a glint under the bang of her hair. If you don't win, I will personally poke your eyes out, said Shirayuki hotly as she comically gritted her teeth. Are you clear? Yes, dear, whimpered Naruto as he cried anime tears. It seemed Kami really liked to watch him in misery. Flashback end. Letting out a tired sigh, Naruto looked at the night sky as his mind started reminiscing about how the rivalry between him and Nagi started. Their rivalry had started after Ukitsu unleashed his stone army. Thanks to his spell and the crucial keys, Naruto couldn't have used his chakra, so he had to go the old-fashioned way and use brute strength alone, and he had come a long way. Now he could deal more damage than Sakura could ever do and was equal to Tsunade, but that was without chakra since he had actually managed to use their enhanced strength technique, mixed with his physical strength. He could make both women look weak. And with his innate time control technique, not to mention clock up as the last resort, he could easily thrash both of them like rag dolls. During the battle he had discovered that Nagi had been equal in strength and skill as him, so their first duel had been on who could take down most of the rock soldiers, and since then, most of their duels had ended in draws. Still, both Nagi and Naruto knew the fact that if Naruto had used his chakra and innate time control, Nagi was no match for Naruto. Suddenly, Naruto was brought out of his thought when he heard the door to the springs open. He quickly ducked into the water as he saw his wives along with Rinrin, Tanpopo and Riri entering the spring. What are you doing here? Yelped Naruto loudly. Why, he didn't mind looking at his wives, but he didn't like some males coming in here and drooling at his wives when they were in all their glory. Ohaho, didn't you notice? This is joint spring, Naruto-kun, said Kikyo with a mischievous smile. And beside, you have seen us so many times, Naruto-kun. And no worry, I have sealed the door so no one will interrupt us. Added Yoko as the kitsune quickly claimed a seat next to Naruto. Not to mention last night you just reduced all of us into drooling dolls, commented Sei as she smiled slyly, but Aisha and Shirayuki quickly interrupted her. Sei, we have children here, said Aisha in embarrassment as her face now was redder than a tomato. Shut up, you lewd woman, said Shirayuki and then pointed at Kurumi, who now was hugging Naruto while rubbing her assets onto Naruto. And you lewd psychotic woman, what the hell are you doing? Smirking at Shirayuki, Kurumi said as she licked Naruto's ear seductively. You foo, this is skinship, Shirayuki. Stealing a march here, and there is a good strategy to become the top, isn't it? This clearly provoked Shirayuki as she gnashed her teeth nastily. They might accepted to share and in fact had got married, but that didn't stop them from fighting to become the second top woman in Naruto's harem, since the first top position had already been taken by Yoko. Ignoring a clearly provoked Shirayuki, Sui decided to add the fuel into fire. Naruto-kun, let me wash your back. Hey, no fair, I will do it this time. You already had your share yesterday, said Toka as she quickly turned Naruto and started washing Naruto's back before he could protest. Naruto-kun, can I ask you to do this for me? Asked Inori suddenly, and all the attention now quickly focused on Inori. It was very rare to see the pinkish-haired girl requested anything from Naruto, since with Inori, she was okay with anything Naruto approved. Anything you want, Inori-chan, said Naruto with a smile. Well, you know that tomorrow is my concert, right? Well, I hope that you will sing in my concert with me, said Inori as she fidgeted on her spot while the other widened their eyes. Looking at his singer wife, Naruto said with uncertainty. Well, I'm not sure if it would be a good idea or not. I sing not really well. I beg to differ, Naruto-kun, snorted Anya as she looked at her husband. Just look at how Riri-chan keeps asking you to sing lullaby every night is more than enough to say that you have a very good voice. It's lullaby, Anya-chan, said Naruto dryly. It's an entirely different matter when you sing in front of thousands people. Please, Naruto-kun, please sing in the concert with me. Even if it's only one song, said Inori in a cute way while tilting her head with an innocent look on her face. In Naruto's defense quickly, no, more like completely shattered. Okay, Inori-chan, you win, said Naruto, and Inori smiled happily. That look should be classified illegal. An SS rank jutsu, cried Naruto inwardly. So what song are you going to sing, Naruto-kun? Asked Yoko curiously, and this quickly gained everyone's attention. That's a secret, replied Naruto cheekily as he got out the springs. Okay, I'm done, girls. Enjoy yourselves. The next day, outskirt of Jingzhou. The Konoha retrieval team had finally arrived. It took one more day than expected, but they managed to get to the city. Man, the city looks a little empty, don't you think? Said Kiba as his partner, Akamaru, barked happily. Yeah, I wonder why, said Tenten. You there? Stop, one of the guards said. What is your business here, strangers? We are just passing by. We are tourists from the east, said Neji indifferently. Well, you managed to get here in the nick of time, said one guard. What do you mean? Asked Ino. Well, the city has finally recovered after the major battle some time ago, and Reiha Dono has sponsored a big tournament that had gathered a lot of fighters from the west. A tournament, you say? I think I will participate, it would be most youthful. Said Lee. Shut up, we don't have time for a stupid tournament, said Sasuke. Well, even if you had time, the tournament is almost over, the final match is going to begin this afternoon. What a shame, maybe next time, my youthful student, said Guy. Yes, next time we will show them the power of the flame of youth, said Rock Lee proudly. I'm so proud to have a youthful student like you, Lee-kun, yelled Guy. I'm so proud to be your student, Guy-sensei, yelled Lee. Lee, Guy-sensei, Lee, Guy-sensei, Lee, Guy-sensei, Lee, Guy-sensei, Lee, Guy-sensei. Just stop it, you bushy brow freaks, yelled Akane and Akemi as they punched the bushy brow duo before their infamous sunset jutsu could activate. Moreover, the concert of Yuzuriha Inori has been started for an hour. It should be near the end at this time, said the other guard as the name, Yuzuriha Inori, quickly gained the attention from the retrieval team. What do you mean by Yuzuriha Inori? Asked Ino hotly as the members of the retrieval team turned their attention toward the guards. Yuzuriha Inori was a very well-known name after all, even could surpass Koyuki in some extents. He means exactly what he said the other guard. Yuzuriha Inori is having a concert now. If you're fast you may catch the final song. Did you hear that, Ka-san? Said Akemi excitedly. We must come quick or we may miss it. I don't have time for a stupid concert, growled Sasuke, but a punch from Akane quickly shut him up. Well, I think a little entertainment is harmless, said Kushina with a hint of enthusiasm. While Kushina was anxious to find her long-lost son, she couldn't deny that the singer voice was so soothing and heard her singing would be fantastic. Well then, I will go gathering some information from my research. I mean tracking Naruto-kun. Yes, information for tracking Naruto-kun, said Jiraiya with a perverted smile, but a glare from the female members of the team immediately made him change his mind. A few minutes later, in the middle of a stunning beautiful stage, Yuzuriha Inori, who was clad in an elegant long pink dress that looked similar to her wedding dress, stood silently in front of a piano with her eyes closed as she ignored the thunderous applaud and cheering from thousands of people in attendance. As she stood, all the eyes focused at the pink-hair singer. Taking in a deep breath, Inori ignored the attendance as her eyes now only focused on a blond man who was clad in a white formal coat, white shirt, white pants, black shoes and an orange tie, as well as a fox mask which covered his upper face as he sat at the front row while watching her with a loving smile. Seeing that particular person made her more determination to sing with her best. Leaning toward the microphone, Inori started singing as the band began to play their instruments. Play music. Sakura Hitohira _Matani Nana. Kotoba Hitotsu Todoku no Naraba, if there's a word that could reach you. Koko de Kimi wo Maitaitai, I want to forever see you here. Sakura Hitohira no Shunken ni, the moment when Sakura petal is falling. Toki wo Tamet, please stop the time. Yukidoke Magica no Machinami, the melting snow at the streets nearby. Iki wa Shiroku Chisana Koa, with my breath turns white in the small voice. Yukiri de yo, just go slowly, you said. Sana ni isogu tabi janai shi, but aren't you going fast? Watashi ga shitekita koto, if there's a meaning. Imi ga moshiaru no nara, for what I have done so far. Itsuka do duru, can we meet each other again someday? Sono sedei, in the middle of this life. The moment Inori started singing, a beautiful and breathtaking voice washed through the attendants. It was so beautiful that the crowd stopped cheering and made their attention focus on her and her alone. Kotoba Hitotsu Todoku no Naraba, if there's a word that could reach you. Koko de Kimi wo Maitaitai, I want to forever see you here. Sakura Hitohira no Shunken ni, the moment when Sakura petal is falling. Toki wo Tamet Dakishimaru yo, please stop the time so I will cherish it. Tsunaida Yuba Kara Sudawaru, our connected fingers. Hun no Sukoshi no Nukumori wo, gave a little warmth. Ima Nara Wakara yo, now I understand. Dor dake sor wa daiji na no ka, just how precious this love is. Tashikana Kamochi Nanti, this certain feeling. Nani wo Suteraredaru, could give you anything. Itsuka Wariatera, one day even. Sono Atami mo, we'll be able to laugh on that pain. With the crowd, Inori just liked a shining star that could dazzle anyone lay eyes on her. Her voice, to the attendants, it was the voice of a goddess. Natsu no Hazashi ni koi wo obo, I remember the love in the summer sun. Keita wo Yoseta aki no sora, and our close shoulder under the autumn sky. Nagai kogoru yuki no naka da hai wo tomoshite, and we lighted the fire in the freezing snow. Fuyu ga sugai, the winter lasted too long. Tagurio seta shiawase wa sora ni akita, the happiness that you gave me. Sakura no hana no yuda, now just like the sakura petal floating in the sky. Saigo no sayonara mo iwana yo, this is the final goodbye, please don't say more. Sono te wo sutsunda, as I held your hand. Kotoba hitotsu kikanai mamada, even if there's a word couldn't be said. Haru no kase ni yurariteta, shaking in the spring wind. Hitori tachisukumu yokogao wo, gently caressing someone's face. Fukanukateku, who was standing stunned. With Inori, she would careless about the audience. All her mind focused on the person who was smiling at her and made her breathless. And that was the driving force to make her performance become better. After all, this concert was just for him. Just for her beloved husband. Just for the one who had risked his own life to save her. Kotoba hitotsu todoku no naraba, if there's a word that could reach you. Koko de kimi wo maitaitai, I want to forever see you here. Kimi to sugoshita kono kisutsu ni, I dream a dream where time can be stopped. Toki ga tomaru, where the seasons you spent with me. Yumi wo mateta, is eternal. The moment the song ended, the concert hall exploded in a storm of thunderous applause after the divine performance. But with Inori, the smile on her husband was more important than anything else. And she would never stop loving him, because... he had given her a life. A life full of happiness and love. With Konoha retrieval team. Damn, she looks just so beautiful. Exclaimed Kiba loudly as Akamaru let out a bark of agreement. I wonder if she would go out with me. In your dream, dog breath, smirked Sasuke arrogantly. While he still thought that this was a waste of time, he couldn't deny that Inori looked quite beautiful on his standard. He intended when he started restoring the Uchiha clan, he would offer her a place by his side after persuading both the Hokage's daughters to help him restore the Uchiha clan. Dare to repeat that, duck butt, growled Kiba. Stop it, both of you, said Kurenai firmly, this is not the place to argue. Scratching his head lazily, Kakashi said to the Hokage's wife as he closed his Ika and put it away before Kushina could burn it. Since the concert seems to be over now, I think we should find Jiraiya-sama to see if he had found any information about Naruto-kun or not. Nodding her head, Kushina signaled the team to left the concert hall, but before they left, music started playing again. The concert still continue, said Ino confusingly as all of them turned back to the stage. Back to the stage, in front of the surprised crowd, a young man with blonde hair and a fox mask covering the upper half of his face as he was clad in a white formal suit with an orange tie stepped on the stage and sat on the bench in front of the piano as Inori sat down next to the masked man and leaned on his shoulder. Grasping another microphone as well as taking in a deep breath, the man started singing with a lazy and relaxed-sounding voice, which was a bit rough and had an airy or slightly breathy quality in it as he began to play the piano. Play music. Niji_Shinshikaijin. Itsumo su yo. It's always like that. Sunaru to kimi wa. You throwing tantrums. Watashi no daiji na mano wo kakusu desho. You would hide away my most precious treasure. Sono basho wa kimet onaji dakara. And because those places where you'd hide them would always be the same. Hyo wa sake ni it mad mirua. Today I'll wait for you there first. Kisutsu tachi ga yuahi wo surtekai, the seasons have brought along the evening sun. Kage ga watashi wo mitsukat nobiru. And the shadows have found me. Bikurashita kauda watashi wo mitsumet wa, you stare intently at me with a shocked expression on your face. Kuni kuchi togares puido soto miru no. And suddenly turn away from me, seems like you're pouting. Gomen ne. To I you to, when you say, I'm sorry. Ja kaki ni kite yoto, I say, then come here. Nay, hora might, and look at this. Kage ga kasanada, our shadows have overlapped each other. Kasa ga butsukari masagu uruk nai. Because our umbrellas are colliding against each other, I'm unable to move forwards. Sana watashi wo might warat iru no. And you laugh after seeing me like this. Watashi mo yat misit aguru no. So I do it as well, and smile. Onaji you ni kuchi wo togarasu. I pout the same way you pouted. Yasashiku warau kimi ga, your gentle smile. Kono jiken ga kuken ga, all these while, all this time. Nakitaku naru kurai, have always been. Ichiban daiji na mano da yo. The most precious thing to me. Wazato togaraseteru. And so I pout on purpose. Watashi ni gomen ne no henji wo motazu ni, and not waiting for your sorry. Yasashiku kisu shitano. I gently kiss you. Kor kara wa chado kurai no wagamama, from now on, if you say slightly willful things. It moi yo. It's okay. Demo watashi ni dake yo. But please say them only to me. Menduku sai karat, it's too troublesome. Sunao ya nine dakara, because you're not being frank with me. Nandai nai no kana. Why you can't just say it. Suki deo. I love you. Hitokoto yo. It's just these words. Tamani wa kikatena. Sometimes I just want to hear you say it. Kyo wa watashi to kimi ga, today is the day. Myoji wo kasaneta hai. The day that our names have a same surname. I ga mefueta hai. The day that our love starts to sprout. La. La. Niji ga kire da yo. The rainbow is really pretty. Iya. Ome no hu ga. But it's you that's prettier. Tere hajimaru kimi ni, to the you who's starting to be shy. Arigato. Arigato. Thank you. Thank you. The moment the song ended, once again the concert hall was flooded with the cheering and the applause as the crowd went wild with the sudden appearance of the masked man. Holding Inori's hand as said person leaned on him and hugged his arms tightly, which made many girls in the crowd squealed at the romantic scene. After both of them gave a bow to the crowd, the masked man and Inori left to the backstage. With the Konoha team. Wow, I wonder who is that masked man, said Tenten loudly as she couldn't help but marveled at the song. It was just so beautiful. Still, why does his chakra signature feel so familiar? Mused Neji loudly with his Byakugan activated. You can feel that too, right Hinata-san? Yes. It feels so familiar, but I can't remember where I met this, said Hinata a little stutter. Her hair had grown long after years. She wondered what her Naruto-kun would think after seeing her new image. My Sasuke-kun can do much better than that masked man, shrieked a certain pink-hair banshee as she tried to prove that her beloved Sasuke would always be better. Yeah, right, said Akane sarcastically, duck butt is always better everyone in you eyes, banshee. What did you just say, tomato bimbo? Yelled Sakura. I dare you to repeat that, banshee. Growled Akane as her eyes became red. Enough, all of you. Interfered Kushina sternly. Let's go, everyone. The concert is over. I hope all of you will do your best to find my Sochi-kun after this relaxation or else. Without waiting, Kushina finished her sentence. All the members nodded their heads vigorously and quickly left the concert hall. At the backstage, that was an amazing performance, Naruto-kun. Gushed Tuka after Naruto had taken off his mask. Yeah, Oni-chan is so amazing, said Tanpopo as she raised her thumb up. Scratching the back of his head, Naruto said with a humorless chuckle. Nah, I'm not amazing as you said, Tuka-chan, Tanpopo-chan. Compared to Inori-chan, I'm just a mere novice. Quote, Tu-san and Inori-ka-san looked so cool, said Riri as she jumped up and down excitedly. Will Tu-san and Inori-ka-san sing together again? Of course, Riri-chan, smiled Inori as she patted the little girl's head. Anytime you want. Anyway, where's Yoko-chan and Shirayuki-hime? Asked Naruto curiously. Yoko is sleeping in the guest room in the palace while Shirayuki is doing some shopping, said Anya as she stretched her arms. Anyway, are you ready for the fight tomorrow? Quote, more than ready, smirked Naruto cheekily. That's good to know, since it would be a pity if my husband was castrated by my sister wives. No. Smirked Anya with a predatory grin. Yes, dear, said Naruto tiredly. He swore that Kami really liked to make his life misery. That night, in an unknown inn. So what information did you get, Jiraiya? Asked Kushina as she eyed the pervert Sennin, who had some bruises here and there on his face as well as his body. Basically the same as yours, Kushina, said Jiraiya. From what I gathered, Naruto is a very well-known and powerful person in the Western region, both politically and physically. For God's sake, if he wanted to become an emperor, the Western people would follow him without a question. Though he is known as Tendo Naruto now in this region. And do you want to know what is his alias in this region, Kushina? My Sochi-kun has an alias. What is it? Asked Kushina excitedly. To think her long-lost son could achieve all the things she had heard was so extraordinary, and her curiosity demanded her to find out more. It's Supido no Ryoshu, Lord of the Speed, Kushina, said Jiraiya with a smile. It seems your son are really like your husband, Kushina. Of course he is, Databane, said Kushina proudly, and he will participate in the final match of the tournament tomorrow afternoon. I can't wait to see my Sochi-kun with my very own eyes. Quote, I believe he will be happy to know that his family is finding him and Konoha want him back, said Jiraiya as he smiled. But unknown to them, the time to pay for the prices was coming near. The next day, welcome one and all to the Jingzhou Restoration Festival. For your entertainment today, we have a special performance featuring the Cho sisters later tonight, but first it is time for the martial arts tournament final match. Now let's the best two fighter come to the stadium. The stadium erupted in cheers as the participants walked in. The first one is the Silver General of Motoku Susu, the leader of GI, Gakushin Bunken. The second one is our beloved Supido no Ryoshu, the Dragon of the West, Tendo Naruto. Once again, loud cheers erupted from the crowds, the loudest coming from the front where Yoko, who was now under a genjutsu to hide her tails and fox ears, Shirayuki, Aisha and everyone sat, and Naruto could only chuckle in slight embarrassment. In the past, he would have eaten this up, but one of the teachings the dragons had given him was that the greatest of warriors are strong but also humble, or else their arrogance will lead to their own destruction. After bowing at each other, Naruto smirked at the silver warrior in front of him. Ready to be beaten, Nagi-chan? I beg to differ, Naruto-kun, smirked Nagi. The stage is set, the fighters are ready. The final round, Naruto vs. Nagi. Ready, fight. With the Konoha team, as the fight processed, every member of the retrieval team now had different thought in their heads. With Jiraiya, all the sensei of Konoha 12, Iruka, Anko and Hana was impressed by a calm, mature and collective Naruto, who now was totally different from the knucklehead, lousy blonde who kept pranking on other people. The Konoha 12 was amazed at how much Naruto had changed since he had been banished. Hinata was blushing furiously at the new Naruto who was fighting on the stage. The baby fat on his face as well as the whisker marks had been gone, and it made look like a younger version of the Yondaime Hokage, with the difference of the spiky hair which was toned down backward. My Sasuke-kun is much cooler than that baka, was the thought of a certain pink-hair banshee, while at the same time, the duck butt was thinking arrogantly. It seems the dope have become stronger. But it doesn't matter. No one can surpass an Uchiha. Wow, my Otudo looks really hot. Thought Akane and Akemi, as both of their face now were redder than tomato. His posture, his calm manner, not to mention strong if what both of them had heard were true. Though their reaction didn't go unnoticed by Sasuke, at the emo narrowed his eyes. Kushina's feeling now was mixed. On the first hand, she couldn't help but feel so proud of her son. She had heard from the villagers that her son had been a troublemaker, and here, in front of her eyes, her son now had become a powerful and mature young. On the other hand, she felt sad and guilty for leaving her youngest child behind and not be able to watch him grow into this fine young man. She swore she would reconnect Het family as a whole and make it up for all the time her son had had to live by himself. Maybe she would have a chance to see her son get married and having children. Oh, she couldn't wait to play with her own grandchildren. But if she knew how wrong she was. Suddenly, Neji discovered something more interesting. Everyone, Naruto's chakra signature is exactly like the chakra signature of the man on the stage yesterday, said Neji with his Byakugan activated. This brought a shocked expression on everyone's face. Wow, my Otudo can even sing. Thought Akane and Akemi with heart in their eyes. a rare kind of man my Ooto is. Back with Naruto and Nagi. Nagi grabbed Naruto by the sleeve and pulled him in. She then threw a punch at her captured opponent, but the blonde caught it and held on. Naruto countered by jumping up and throwing a drop kick to her stomach, forcing her to back off, and tearing a large piece of his sleeve off. As the two backed away, Naruto tore off the remainder of his sleeve and cast it aside while Nagi took this time to recuperate and strategize. The wait wasn't long as she charged forward and leapt into a flying kick. Naruto quickly bent backward as if to do a flip, making Nagi miss. However, as she sailed over, he surprised her by throwing his legs up and captured her by the neck. Naruto then threw her back the way she came and hopped to his feet. Just as Nagi came rushing in, Naruto threw a hard punch. Nagi swiftly blocked and delivered one of her own to his abdomen before she grabbed him by the collar and judo flipped him to the ground. Naruto retaliated by doing a whirling kick from his place on the floor, knocking the girl onto her back. Back on his feet, Naruto pressed his attack with a high roundhouse kick. Nagi ducked in time and blocked when it stopped and came back at her. She caught the blonde by surprise when he charged forward and Nagi delivered a back flip kick to his chin, throwing him on his back. Naruto leapt back up and popped his neck a bit to get the kinks out. Undeterred, Nagi went rushing in with both hands held up for an overhead strike. Naruto blocked the blow, threw her arms out and threw a twin punch to her chest and abdomen, throwing her back a few feet onto her back. She quickly got back up and rolled her shoulders. The two fighters then resumed their stances, waiting for the other to make the next move. The two were unsure how long they had been fighting. The sweat they had in the position of the sun suggested it had been at least an hour, maybe even two. They grinned at one another. Who cares how long they've been at it? This has been the best fight they've had since Uketsu. But before they could rush at each other again. That's enough now. ... Both Naruto and Nagi skidded to halt and turned to the voice. It was Reiha coming down the steps towards them. Sorry you two, but you've been at for nearly 3 hours, and if you two keep going, it'll never end. I am hereby calling this fight a tie. What? Shouted both of them. Well, how about we let the people make the choice? She then turned to the audience. What do you say, my citizens? Should we grant victory to both of them? Both Naruto and Nagi were dumbstruck at what happened next. The entire stadium started to stand up and started to clap and cheer. Both of Naruto and Nagi's friends approached them. That was a great fight, Naruto-kun, said Sui. Oni-chan, that was amazing, said both Rinrin and Tanpopo. A truly honorable fight, said Aisha. Well, at least I'm not going to be castrated by my wives, said Naruto as he chuckled dryly. With Konoha team, Naruto has become really strong, said Iruka. Well, do any of you have a plan to deal with it? Said Kushina to the other members of the team. Shikamaru for his part was thinking until he noticed something. We have no choice, we have to get him off guard. Also, I noticed that he is somewhat tired, so if we go together we have a better chance. Everybody nodded. While Kushina didn't like the idea of using force on her Sochi, she convinced herself that this was for the greater good. Yeah, for the greater good. Sasuke for his part was fuming inside. How can the Dobi and that stupid woman be that strong? If anyone deserves that kind of power, it should be me. With that, the retrieval team left in order to set up their plan. With Naruto, some time after the match, Naruto had finished dressing up in new clothes similar to those Nagi damaged as he left the springs in the palace. After saying his thanks and goodbyes to everyone, he and his family headed back to the palace. Both he and Nagi were disappointed that they got a draw again, but heck, it was still fun. They agreed they would share the price. For Naruto's part, he gave it to his wives. And about Karen, well, she was still fuming that Naruto had escaped the deal, thanks to Reiha's intervention. Naruto was broken out of thought when he saw his wives heading towards his direction. Where are you going? Asked Yoko. Just getting some fresh air, though I'm still a little tired, he said. Can't blame you, Everyone at the stadium was at the edge of their seats with your performance, chuckled Sei. And what about you? Asked the blonde. We are going to enjoy the hot springs one last time before leaving tomorrow, said Tuka. Can I join you? Asked Toka and Kurumi at the same time, which made Naruto raised his eyebrows. We had already taken a bath in the hot springs, so we have no interest in enjoying it again. Anyone want to join us? After receiving the decline, Naruto smiled at his wives. Well then, we'll see you later then, he said and kissed each of his wives on the lips. But before Naruto, Toka and Kurumi could leave, Naruto felt a pull on his leg. He turned around and saw Riri there. "To-san, Riri want to go outside with you," she said in her usual cute voice. Please, please, please." Naruto's sweat dropped at his daughter's cute action. "I don't know, ask your Ka-san first," he said. "If you there are watching over her, then I don't have any problem," said Shion with a smile on her lips. "Okay, well, shall we go then, Riri-chan, Toka-hime, Kurumi-chan?" said Naruto as he picked the little girl and put her on his shoulders while Toka and Kurumi quickly claimed his arms, Toka on the right and Kurumi on the left respectively. Riri for her part was always happy that her To-san always had time for her. She also always enjoyed being carried on his shoulder and could help but to let out cute giggles. "Oh, I nearly forgot. Naruto-kun, where's your sword?" asked Shirayuki. "I left it in the room. Could you keep an eye on it for me, please, Shirayuki-hime?" "Sure, no problem," she answered as she watched them walk away. "Not like anyone can use it even if they did steal it," added Aisha as she let out a small giggle. Jingzhou moments later. The city was a little quiet. After the tournament, which was a huge success, most of the people returned to their houses. The few that was left on the streets saluted Naruto as he walked by them. Naruto was happy to at least get some recognition, well, more like some big recognition. In the entire West he was admired and loved by his wives as well as almost the great ladies Karen, Sharon the ruler of Go, Yu the ruler of Tu, and Reiha. Suddenly Riri patted his head. "To-san, can I please have one of those?" she said while pointing at an ice cream parlor. "I don't know, your Shion Ka-chan would be mad if I let you eat," he said. "Please," the little girl said while pouting as well as giving him the puppy eyes. Naruto let out a sigh in defeat. He could win against armies, defeat mad scheming men and evil wizards, yet he couldn't win the little girl that was on his shoulders. "Okay, you win. Stop doing that," he said while Riri let out a victory cry. "Also don't tell your mother, okay?" The little girl quickly nodded as she ran into the parlor after Naruto put her on the ground. "You really spoil her rotten," commented Toka, who was clad in a white shirt, a long violet skirt, violet stockings and black shoes, as she was munching her yakiamo that she had just bought a few minutes ago. "How can I say no with our daughter Toka-hime, especially when she make that face," said Naruto as he chuckled. "You're right," sighed Toka. "I swear that Tanpopo's mischievous side really rubbed on Riri-chan." "Who knows? Well, let's go in there anyway. We don't want to make our little princess wait, right?" said Kurumi with a smile. Today she was clad in a black Lolita dress, black stockings and brown shoes. As Naruto, Toka, and Kurumi went into the store, totally unaware of the group that had followed them. "Well, we found him, now what?" asked Kiba. "We confront him, it has to be now before he can regain more strength," said Kakashi as everyone nodded. "What about the little girl and the two who are with him?" asked Choji as he munched his last pieces of potato chips. "We will think about it later. For now, we must hurry," said Jiraiya. It didn't pass much before Toka, Kurumi and Naruto came out of the store while holding the Riri's hand as she gleefully ate her ice cream. The group wandered a bit until they came to an empty street. Riri finished the treat and let out a cute yawn. "Well, I think it's time we should head back, Riri-chan," said Naruto as the little girl nodded, rubbing her eyes. Suddenly Naruto felt a hand on his shoulder. "It's been a long time, Gaki," said the owner of the hand. But in merely half a second, Toka grabbed the arm of the newcomer, twisted it and threw a vicious kick into the stomach and making the newcomer skidded back. Naruto for his part was shocked and pissed at the same time. "Jiraiya," he said with venom in his voice. He turned around only to come face to face with all of those who had turned their backs on his as well as those who had stabbed it too.